what we're going to show you today is we're going to talk about and show you our Serenic Navigator for K-12 education software product. And what it is it's a modern, comprehensive, intelligent, and flexible ERP solution designed specifically for school boards and districts.
The product that we've developed is kind of broken up into three flavors, if you will. So obviously the K-12 school district solution, a version of Dynamics 365 Business Central for your sector specifically, and then additionally we've got two other versions of Navigator, which is for local governments, municipalities, as well as then nonprofits and international NGOs. The common thread, which is probably obvious across those three segments, is the element of fund accounting. I mean, that's at the end of the day what we do here at Serenic.
The first place I'm going to go is the chart of accounts. This is really where the heart of Serenic lies. Everything feeds into the chart of accounts because this ends up being the core of what our reporting is. I have the ability to define my own views within the system. So I've actually created a view that's my preference, showing just operation expenses for a specific fiscal year and consolidated that view. This is also where you start to see that integration with Excel. So you'll see I have an option that says open in Excel. So whatever I'm viewing, when I click on that open in Excel, it actually creates a formatted Excel spreadsheet that has that data for me. So I talk about this being a reporting tool and really being used to be able to research, to view activity. And as I come into the screen and scroll down, you'll see that these amounts are all hyperlinks. One thing I want you to notice too is that I've got a column here that says encumbrances, for example. And Chris alluded to the procurement capabilities that we have within the system. So within that, when we have processed purchase requisitions and purchase orders, they actually become available and visible in all of the reporting within the system and reduces the available budget. So it really gives us a truer picture of where we stand actual to budget on a regular basis. But when I'm looking at these hyperlinks, I can then drill into the transactional detail that supports that number. And so you'll see that I've got detail here. As you look over towards the right-hand side of the screen, this is where we start to see how we can build on that reporting capability. So I've always got my general ledger account code that I came from, a fund number because this is fund accounting, and that's our balanced set of the books. But I also have other segments here. So in my database here, I've got program, object, site, but this could be things like department, school, it could be a grant segment. So if I do have to track grant management, that's how I separate those costs. So that's all done within that account structure. One of the things to highlight here is that Serenic Navigator uses a functionality called a logical chart of accounts. And what that means for us is when I need to add a new project, for example, I simply add one value for that segment called project 123. That project value then immediately becomes available to every department, every program, every grant, and can use all of the GL accounts. So it's a very simple way to manage your chart of accounts. Oftentimes one of the questions comes up is, well, I may be creating a new project, but I have to restrict that. I want to make sure that that data entry is clean. That project must be linked to one funding source. It's only going to be used by 2 departments. I can build controls into the system that enforce that data entry. So while it's very simple for me to add those new values, I can also define rules that control how those values are used, keeping my data entry clean in the system. One of the things I've always loved about Navigator is that I have the ability to take this a level further. Oftentimes you'll see accounting systems that once the subsidiary module posts to the general ledger, the link is lost. And so if I wanted to go research what this AP activity looked like, I would have to go over to the AP module to do that. Here within Navigator, I simply highlight this activity that I can tell came from accounts payable because it says invoice. And I tell the system that I want to navigate back to my source document. So as I do that, it comes up and it tells me everything that it's linked to in the system, including bank activity because it was a payment. But I can also then drill back to the source document. So as I'm looking at this purchase invoice that's been posted in the system, I can't edit anything. That's part of the audit controls that are built into the system. It's a view only at this point, but I can see how that invoice was coded. I can also see the audit trail. So I alluded to this in the introduction, but everything that's posted in the system is always linked to who did it and when they did it. So I can always see what has happened truly in the system. In addition to that, if this came from purchase order processing within the system, I would see that PO number referenced here, and I could then navigate back to the original purchase order. I could see who did the approvals. I could see any attached backup documentation. You'll also notice on this invoice, I've got some supporting documentation right here on the record in the system. This actually becomes part of the database. So I've attached a copy of the invoice. This could also be copies of my required bids if it's a significant dollar amount. I can also add notes. So those become part of that permanent record in the invoice.